Hi, my name is Bente, I'm the Norse witch, and another full moon is coming up. This time it's a full moon in Gemini, so as always, let's see what kinds of magical workings we can do on a full moon in Gemini. As always, first of all, when is this full moon in Gemini? In Central European time, it's on Monday, November 27th at 10:16 a.m. In Eastern time, it's on Monday, November 27th at 4:16 a.m. And in Pacific time, it is on Monday, November 27th at 1:16 a.m. Gemini. What is it all about? So first of all, Gemini is a mutable air sign ruled by Mercury. That is a lot of movement and a lot of instability. So of course, a mutable sign, so that means it is adaptable, it is fluctuating, it doesn't stay in one place. An air sign, of course, includes like communication, intellectual stuff, things like that. And it's also pretty changeable. Like if you think of air, it doesn't really stay in one place. It's not like Earth that is fixed somewhere, it's lying there and it stays there. Air is also very fluctuating and very quick to change. And then lastly, we have Mercury, which again, together with air, I always see Mercury as a very airy planet. Mercury is basically all about exchange, about movement, about like things like communication, where you exchange ideas or just exchange language. It's also about like travel, that's also exchange and movement, trade, anything where there's exchange and movement happening. So you see, Gemini is basically the most changeable and the most adaptable sign ever. But they're not very good in emotions. Any kind of air sign, emotions are not their strong suit. So yeah, they're not very good at emotions. Also, because they are so changeable, their mind is always racing. They have constantly new ideas, new things that they want to try, new things that they want to talk about. When they're talking to other people, their head is usually like 10 steps ahead. Sometimes it's very hard to follow a Gemini when you're communicating with them because they're so quick in their communication. They're also social butterflies. I mean, they're an air sign. Air signs, communication, things like that. Mercury, communication, things like that. Geminis are like probably the most extreme social butterflies in the zodiac. Of course, Leos are always said to be very extroverted too, for example, as are all fire signs. But like Geminis just need this constant flow of communication, of new ideas, new stimuli. So Gemini are pretty chaotic. They are all over the place, but they're extremely rational at the same time. But what does that mean for a full moon in Gemini? So a full moon in Gemini is probably the least emotional full moon you will experience in the entire year. In general, air signs are not very emotional, but I feel like with a Mercury-ruled air sign, that's even less emotional. So I feel like Gemini full moons are the least emotional full moons ever. So if you are usually very emotional during full moons, this will probably give you some time to breathe. But that also means that anything that you would like to do on a full moon for like emotional stuff, divination, things like that, not the best idea on a full moon in Gemini, like love spells and things like that. Not really a thing I would do on a Gemini full moon, to be honest. On a Gemini full moon, I would dive very deeply into anything rational, anything that has to do with communication, with social interaction, and with getting some fresh air, you know, like getting some new ideas in. So first of all, of course, diving into the communication and like social interaction aspect of Gemini. Of course, if you are not the best at communicating, if you're maybe a little bit introverted, or you just don't really feel like you are the best at communicating with other people, then maybe you could use this Gemini full moon to, one, maybe just get you out of your shell a little bit more, get you to be a little bit more extroverted. Of course, if you don't want to do that in general, you can make like a talisman for that, for example, that you can just put on and wear whenever you get into a social situation and you could need some help for that. Also, if you maybe want to get more adaptable in social situations, this is something that you could work on. And yeah, in general, if there's like any kind of communication issue, you can work on that. Also, for example, if you have to give a speech or something, or you have to do some kind of oral exam, anything like that, that is like Gemini full moons are the perfect time to work on that and to maybe, again, make a talisman to help you in those kinds of situations, or just in general to enhance that kind of skill that you're maybe lacking a little bit. I feel that very deeply. Of course, since Gemini is like all over the place, they have new ideas all the time, they need new stimuli all the time, then you can draw on that kind of energy if, for example, you are a person that is more set in their ways and doesn't really like change. If you need, in general, if you need a breath of fresh air, then you can draw on that energy because Gemini embodies that energy. So, for example, something that I liked to do on a new moon in Gemini, and yes, this is probably something that you would rather do on a new moon in Gemini, because this new moon energy, of course, it just enforces this idea of getting a breath of fresh new air. But still, I think you can do it on a full moon too. And the last new moon in Gemini, I made a little not magic spell, a little witch's ladder, you could probably call it a witch's ladder, where I basically charged the knots with the energy of Gemini and the new moon. So like 4 new ideas and a breath of fresh air whenever I need it. And whenever I need it, I will just open a knot and bam, new ideas, a breath of fresh air. So maybe something like that, something that you would like to try on it this full moon in Gemini. Of course, since Geminis are also extremely rational and they're like quick learners, anything that has to do with their brain is just working very well for them, good for them. So again, if you are maybe in school or you are in university or in general in some kind of situation where you could use that kind of energy and you would like to enhance your learning skills and maybe your like memory skills so that you are able to like learn and memorize things better, then I would definitely suggest you do that on this full moon. This is a perfect time for that. So if some tests, like some school tests or university stuff is coming up, do some workings for that. That's the perfect time for that. You could also use this Gemini energy to get into some new topics of interest. So maybe there is a new topic that you have wanted to get into for a long time, but you just couldn't get yourself to do the first step. Then maybe use this like new ideas and new stimuli energy of Gemini to get into a new topic of interest. And then you can use this like quick learning energy of Gemini to basically get a jump start on that. So if you want to research something new, definitely start that on this full moon. And yes, those are my ideas for a Gemini full moon. Of course, patron shout out as always. Thank you so much to SJ, Natasha, and Kate, Cade, Thistle, Adam, Z, Kent, Kelly, Brittany, Emmer, Celine, Small Kata, Josh, Elinora, David, Christine, Rixie Business, Annalena, Ashley, Erica, Kristen, John, Phoenix, Jenny, Misty, Amy, Bethany, Timothy, Coffee, the Honorary Gossip Squirrel, and Bjorn. Thank you so much. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up and ring the bell down below so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Of course, you can check out my other socials and of course, my shop for ethically and sustainably sourced witchcraft and paganism tools. And if you want to support me in another way, then you can check out my Patreon. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!